So there is a main reason why I have a picture of Dr. King up here, because this is going to drive home a huge point for me and what I and many others have been saying for years on why I hate it when palm-colored people in particular bastardize this man's legacy and his image every chance they get, because now it has finally come to a head. So in case y'all did not know, in the state of Texas, they are trying to ban, or not so much ban, but they might as well call it that, but drop the teachings of civil rights and the civil rights movement or anything related to civil rights in all of their schools. But let me remix that. They're not trying. They're actually in the process of doing right now. Like, they are actually inching closer and closer to having civil rights or the teachings of it being taken out of schools. Well, in Texas, and I say schools because who knows, it might trickle down somewhere down the line. This doesn't surprise me because remember with the McGraw-Hill books, and I keep going back to that. A few years ago, that was also in Texas where they were trying to bastardize what slavery or chattel slavery actually was. But people got on them, and those books never saw the light of day. So now they're doing it with this. These are the same people who, again, bastardized Dr. King's image and legacy, saying he did this and he's that and everything like that, and they use him as a shield. But you're trying to take away the one major part that he played in American society that you use to back up your argument. That's why I said don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Do not fall for their BS when it comes to how they talk about this man, especially since they don't talk about everything. They only talk up to I have a dream, and that's as far as they go. There was still 4 more years left in 5 more years left in this man's life since that speech. They don't talk about the other 5 years, and they especially don't talk about that final year when he was saying we're going to come and get our check and, integrating my people into a burning building. They don't talk about any of that. But this is what they're aiming to do. Not even trying. They're in the process of doing right now as I speak. So black people that live in Texas and probably other places around the establishment, if you want your kids to learn about history, I would highly suggest that you find a way to teach it yourselves. This is now where true parenting comes into play. This is the erasure of black people in society. That is they're trying to do everything that they can to get rid of us. Now they're going for the schools. Not that they really taught much of that anyway when it came to our history, and we were only relegated to 1 month, and they only taught but so much in that 1 month when we have it. But in the state of Illinois, they just mandated that they have to teach Asian American history. No mention of critical race theory popping up there, but they have to get rid of everything. That's why we keep saying CRT is nothing more than them being mad about black history. Or true black history, true black American history at that specifically. And they have to get rid of it at all costs. This is by the erasure of that. That means that they are trying to absolve themselves of all their wrongdoing. And I notice the timing. They know that their time is almost up, so they have to figure out a way to get everything out of the place and where it is now. They got to get all their ducks in a row before they check out. Before a new, I guess you could say, entity checks in. Public schools in Texas are one step closer to no longer being required to teach about the various civil rights movements in U.S. history after the state Senate voted 18-4. Look at that. That was a landslide vote. That wasn't even a close vote. 18-4. To drop the requirements on Friday. Senate Bill 3 would allow teachers to exclude lessons about Dr. King, the history of Native Americans, Cesar Chavez, Susan B. Anthony, and other important figures and documents from their class curriculums. Basically, a lot of people that either they don't like or they hate it. The bill is now stalled as the Texas House cannot vote on it due to the group of 51 runaway Democrats currently in Washington, D.C. The lawmakers fled the Lone Star State in order to block a restrictive voting reform bill proposed by conservatives. I'm just scrolling down to the next part. Senate Bill 3, authored by state Senator Brian Hughes dropped more than 24 teaching requirements and comes after Governor Greg Abbott signed the bill to ban teachers from discussing critical race theory and the 1619 Project, academic frameworks that explore the history of racism in the U.S. Our classrooms should be places for fostering a diverse and fact-based discussion on various perspectives, said Hughes. They're not for planting seeds for a divisive political agenda. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who presides over the Senate, said in a statement that the bill will make certain that critical race philosophies, including the debunked 1619 founding myth, are removed from our school curriculums statewide. Parents want their students to learn how to think critically, not be indoctrinated by the ridiculous leftist narrative that America and our Constitution are rooted in racism. And they keep, this is the shit that grinds my gears. They keep saying leftist and right. At this point, there is no left and there is no right. I don't see either one of them as no more as the same entity. And both of them I despise because both of them have an agenda going on. And somehow, some way, they will meet in the middle. There is no left or right for me. It's just center. That is all. And all it will ever be. I don't know why they keep trying to go out of their way to make it seem like they're so different when they're really not. They have a lot of similar. As a matter of fact, I think they have more similarities than they have differences, to be quite honest. The ACLU of Texas spoke out against the bill on Twitter. Teachers should not be censored from educating students about our history, no matter how inconvenient elected officials find it to talk about race, the ACLU wrote in a statement. And this right here doesn't surprise me because if you remember a couple months ago, or maybe about a month ago, it was very recent, where they were already in talks about trying to remove or stop teachers from talking about Dub S in school. That was the beginning of it right there. As far as I know, as a public take, and now this is following behind it. They really want people to not talk about the wrongdoings they do, and they have the nerve to sit up there on their high horse and try to tell us about taking accountability. I'm telling you, these are not a group of moral people. We should not be following their lead because following their lead, you see where that can lead us. So now they just want to sit up there and tell a bunch of lies. They won't take anything out about their history because that's the quote unquote true American history. Shout out to Sejahito for the quote. That's the true American history. Anything that white people did outside of the bad that they've done, that's the American history that they'll talk about, and they will make sure it's the only one that you will know. And I bet you there's going to be more fallacies in it than truth. Because that's another thing that the collective of PC is good at, is lying. Last week, the Texas Senate also passed bills that would strip away requirements in which students learn white supremacy is morally wrong. Remember, that's what I was just talking about. And ban medically induced abortions after 7 weeks into a pregnancy. All of this stuff is so right-leaning and conservative based. I know that I shouldn't say left or right, anything like that, but I just have to point it out. This stuff is right up their alley. It just is. Like I said, these are bills that are being passed that nobody knows about. While all this other stuff is going on in the world, this is what's being passed in the state of Texas. And Texas is a large state. The fight over critical race theory in schools has escalated in the United States over the last year. The theory has sparked a fierce nationwide debate in the wake of Black Lives Matter protests around the country over the last year in the introduction of the 1619 Project. The 1619 Project, which was published by the New York Times in 2019 to mark 400 years since the first enslaved Africans arrived on American shores, reframes American history by placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the center of the U.S. narrative. The debate surrounding critical race theory regards concerns that some children are being indoctrinated into thinking that white people are inherently racist or sexist. Can you blame them? I mean, have Palm Colored really taken a glance at, just a glance, not even a full scope, a glance at their history? Like I said, they have planted psychologically a seed in their own brain, or should I say in their head, because many of them aren't playing with a full deck, somewhere in their cranium, that they, in their history, has not been bad for a certain group of people. It's been bad for others. Hell, some part of their history is even bad for their own. That's how odd and off and bad it is. But since we're talking about black people, we're going to focus on us. But they really feel they've done nothing wrong. Nothing. When they were asked about, do you think America is a racist nation? You had so many people actually say no. But they'll say, but there is elements of racism there. It's a lot of elements of racism there. Wouldn't that indeed make it a racist country? Granted, it is a first world country, but that don't mean a damn thing. It is what it is. Those against critical race theory have argued it reduces people to the categories of privileged or oppressed based on their skin color. Supporters, however, say the theory is vital to eliminating racism because it examines the ways in which race influence American politics, culture, and the law. So you just contradict yourself. Which is it? Are you for it or are you against it? Like, I'm not understanding. You're like, I don't even know if it's even good for me to try to understand what they're getting at. Like, just wow. Like, they really actually think they're doing something here. But I have a feeling this is not going to go well at all. But we see what they're trying to do. We see their angle. We know their end game is so blatantly obvious. No need for any blinders. It's in your face. It is very overt. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. And if you are a parent, a black parent in Texas, I'm going to need you to find a way to I don't know what you'll have to do to homeschool your kids, your kid or your kids, because they're going to be teaching them a bunch of BS in these. I mean, they're already doing it now, but they about to really rev it up. And let me go ahead and add this one little last part, because I think I mentioned this in another video. I feel like at the end of the day, and this actually, when I mentioned it was about Texas, at the end of the day, this stuff can be taught on the internet. I mean, learned on the internet. If you really want to be technical, you just have to know where to look. So they wouldn't even, like, I feel like they're just wasting their time with this. But still at the same time, I see what they're trying to do, and it is still messed up.